Hi everyone, I am so excited for our video today, and the main reason why is because here in my hands, it's actually the limited edition Sunset Cranes Maki-e set from Sonia G. Hey, look at that. Don't they look so beautiful? Truly lovely. Now, I know that the light reflecting off the handle here is not nice because I'm using my Rikitol vanity mirror with us today. But don't you worry, I am going to be inserting a lot of close-up shots of this brush set as we go along the video, okay? But before we continue, I would like to give a huge thank you to Sonia G and to Beautylish for sending this set my way. I am so grateful, truly, truly, truly grateful. I was actually not expecting to receive this in PR, but it's here and I'm so happy. Very, very happy. Again, thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate it. Now, when I first saw this brush set being released, in promos, like on Instagram or on the Beautylish website or on Sonia G's blog post, I said to myself, I just fell in love with it. I really wanted to have it. And the main reason why is because aside from the fact that we have a very lovely Maki-e design here on the handle, the brush heads here are made of gray squirrel. And I don't have a lot of gray squirrel makeup brushes in my collection, mainly because they're not on the top of my to-buy list, mainly because I'm a makeup artist. And we all know how delicate squirrel makeup brushes are, so I always end up using a lot of goat-haired makeup brushes because they're very easy to clean, they're also easy to store, and it's not painful in the heart if it gets busted or if it gets stolen, because yes, sometimes brushes get stolen on set. Yeah, so when I first saw this, I go like, oh my gosh, I really wanted to have it because it's very, very special. And what really, enticed me in wanting to have this is the brush head itself. Now, I know that this brush set is no longer available, but I'm sure if you scour the internet, you'll be able to find this, being resold somewhere. But the main reason why I'm doing this video is because we just really need to appreciate this brush set because it's actually a very beautiful brush set. And of course, we'll try to see how well these brushes will work in applying eyeshadows in the eyes. So, okay, so now, before we continue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my camera over. We will take a look at this up close and we'll have some comparisons with similar brushes that I have in my collection, okay? So this is how the Sunset Cranes Maki set looks like under the light. Look how beautiful that brush is. Look at the sheen and the luster coming out from the handle all the way to the ferrule here. Simply beautiful. Now, I have a video of this under natural light, and I do have to say it is also stunning under natural light, and you can actually see the moody tones of this brush come out. So I'm going to insert that video here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. And of course, if we take a look, we have the cranes here on the close to the base of the brush, and it's absolutely beautiful, so stunning. So I'm gonna just use one brush for this. Okay, look at that. I don't know how the artisan has managed to put such a small figure close to the base of the handle, and of course the width that they're working with to apply this stunning artwork. So we can see the two stunning cranes here on the handle. One is in red and one is in gold, and we have three little I don't know, stars here, so I don't know what that symbolizes. So that's so stunning. And we have the red setting sun behind that gold crane. I love how poetic this is. It really captures how sunset really looks like. And of course we have this very nice moody color that runs all the way from the ferrule here down the body of the handle here and into this area where it becomes a much more voluptuous figure, and then it tapers down into a point here. And I love that it is the red is found in this part because it just heightens the poetry that we see in the handle. It's such a beautiful, beautiful handle. Super stunning. Look at that. I can't help but marvel at the beauty of this. Now, I know that you're looking at the color of the handle here, and you guys might think it's very similar to, let's say, the handle from the Pro series. But if we get one, let's say this is the Pencil Pro, if you put it here, we can see that the Sunset Cranes Maki brush set here is moodier than the colors on the Pro handle here. And if we move closer, we can see that there's actually like, some shimmer and glitter on the handle of the Pro series, but we don't get that with the Sunset Cranes Maki-e brushes. It's not as pronounced as the glitters that we see on the Pro handles, but it's there, but they're just a different hue, and they're also very different in intensity between each other. So anyway, if you take a look closer at the brushes of the handle here, the front of the brush has the crane design, and if we flip to the back, we have the Sonia G logo here, and that's basically it. There's no stamping of the Japan logo, nothing, and that's all the same for the other brushes here. And if we line all of the brushes up, again, it looks very, very stunning. Now the ferrule is all in black. Now these two brushes here, they are crimped here. That gives them their flat brush head design. Now this brush here has an arched ferrule, hence you have the name the arched worker brush. And this brush here has a rounded curved ferrule, which gives us this pointed brush head shape here. Okay, so before we continue talking about these brushes individually, let me just put this to the side. And let me get the packaging that the brushes came with. It's a very beautiful packaging, and we have this a belt that goes around this, so it's like an OB belt of sorts. And if we remove this, we can see the washi paper that wraps around this wooden packaging here. It's Polonia. It's actually quite light. I like it. And of course, you have the Kumano Fude seal here. Then we have the printout of the cranes here on the other washi paper that's on top of this pink washi paper. And if we just remove the tape, the box is actually very simple, but here on top we have the Sonia G logo. And if we remove the cover here, the brushes can be placed here, so which is kind of like a good brush stand, I have to say. But the wood here is so light, I don't know on how well it will actually hold the weight of the brushes, but I do have to say though that it's a good packaging design. Okay, so now let's talk about these brushes individually. So I'm gonna put them to the side here, and I'll start by talking about the soft pencil brush. So as I pointed out earlier, we have a very nice pointed pencil brush here, and again, I'm so amazed on how soft the tip is, and also quite strong. I'm sure you guys can see how well it actually holds its shape, and this is so amazing for a gray squirrel hair makeup brush. What I like about this is that I can actually feel the density of the belly here, and it actually helps keep the shape of the brush head. I can really feel it, and there's a little spring in it that puts it back into shape quite nicely. Now, although this is defined as a pencil brush, but to me it's like a combination of a pencil brush and an eyeliner, because it has like a very nice long pointy tip here. Because for example, if I get the pencil pro brush from Sonia G, so this is also a pencil brush, more the very typical shape, but it's it's very different from this. Because for example, let me get the Sonia G Pencil S here, and let me put it beside them. Now the Pencil S is actually closer in shape in terms of brush head design to the soft pencil of the Sunset Crane Maki brush here. So let me put this away. And I love that we have these two smaller types of pencil brushes in Sonia's collection, because it just really helps you to add more detailing into your eye look. And I also have another pencil brush, which is the G5515 brush from Hakuhodo. So this is one of my smallest pencil brushes, quote unquote, in my collection, but it doesn't have the sharp point as this brush, and it's also longer. So it will give you more ability to change the shape of the eyeliner that you're applying on the lash line. Because of course, if you're going to use the tip of this brush, you'll have a much more finer application of color, and if you press it more, you'll have a thicker application of color on the lashes. And I just absolutely love the shape of this. I am so grateful because it's almost like, let me just get one more brush. See, so if I have an eyeliner brush here, this is the G007 from Hakuhodo. So if you combine all of these brushes, you have a brush like this, which is actually more pointed, and it really does the job. I'm so excited to try this out. Okay, so let me put this away now. Okay, so this is the flat smudger, and as you guys can see with the brush head here, again, it's so amazing on how well it actually keeps its shape. And I'm sure you guys can see the strength of the belly of this brush head here. So this will give you a lot of control when you apply color, not only on the lash line, but if you actually want to apply color into the crease, you can actually use this. And as you guys can see, it's quite full here in the belly, and then it tapers into a much more finer point here at the tip. Very beautiful, very, very soft, amazingly soft. Now, if I was going to compare it to, let's say, the flat definer from the Sky series of Sonia G, the flat definer is longer, and the shape of the tips here is a much more rounded, while the flat smudger here is actually it's more rectangular in nature. The other smudger brush that I have here from Sonia G, the old smudger one brush. So let me put that here. Okay, so they share almost the same shape here on the side, almost the same shape, but this one is flatter, and the length of the brush head is actually longer, in terms of the width, by the way. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So let me put this away. If I have other smudger brushes in my collection, so this is from the Chikuhodo FO series, so this is the FO8. So let me put that right beside the flat smudger. Now the size of the brush head of these two are almost similar if you put them close to each other and on top. Almost the same. And what else do I have here? So I have here the Hakuhodo S114 brush, but this one is made of Tanuki. But it's actually smaller in terms of width in comparison to the flat smudger from the Sunset Cranes Maki-e brush set. But the length of this is also longer. Okay, and I have another smudger brush from Chikuhodo. This is the R-SL4. Now this one has a much more shorter bristle in comparison. But as you guys can see with the tips here, the R-SL4 is actually rounder and thicker, while this one, it kind of tapers into a much more thinner point here at the tips of the bristle. So this enables you to add, this brush enables you to add more detailing into your lashes, and you can really get well in between your lashes with this brush head, for sure, for sure. Next, I have the mini builder here. And as you guys can see, the tip of this is actually flat and round, paddle-like design. And again, we have this very nice strength at the belly here. It's quite full, and then it tapers into a much more finer point near the tips. Nice snap back into position. This gives us an idea on how strong the core is of this brush head. So I'm sure this will enable us to apply a very nice, soft, defined color that you can actually build on your eyelid, basing off of the name of this. So for comparison, this is one of the holiday brushes, the holiday trios. This is the S1. So the S1 here is made of yellow Canadian squirrel here, but you have a much more smaller width here. Also, the brush head is shorter, but it has the same idea of actually it has a much more finer point here, so you can have more detailing. And I love that I have this bigger brush now because I can use these two together when I'm working. So if I just want to add a more intense color, I'm going to use this, and if I want to blend that color out, I can also use this. So I'm so happy that Sonia is actually making sure that the brushes that she shells out this time, you don't have doubles, and it actually complements some of the brushes from her collections, may it be for the holiday or the permanent collection. Look at that. I love these two. And of course the handles, they're very similar. There's just a slight difference on the volume at this part of the handle with the Holiday Traditions trio that was released in 2022, if I remember correctly. Okay, next, I also have this Builder S brush here from her recently released Fundamental series. And look at the brush head design of this. They're almost similar, but in terms of width of the brush head, the mini builder here has a much more longer width of brush head. But you still have that same flat and rounded brush head tip design here, and also here to the side. We can see the difference in the fullness of the belly here. But again, we see that similar, like, it tapers into a much more finer point here on the tips of the brush head. Very nice. Again, they will work very well together, especially if you have these three. Amazing, right? Look at that. So good, so good. And hang on. Where was that brush? Okay, so let me just put the flat definer here from the Sky series, because I think the flat definer here also can work as a builder brush. So let me just put that here so that you guys can see the difference in the brush head design. So the flat definer here is actually shorter, and it tapers earlier after it reaches the middle of the brush head, and it starts to become much more crescent like, not as round as the other brushes that I am showing you guys here today. You can actually work very well in creating more intense eyeshadow looks, but it would vary depending on which brush you'd use, so it depends on the intensity that you want to create on your eye. Okay, so let's move forward. And the final brush that we have in this set is the Arch Worker brush. And we actually get the name from the arch that we see in the ferrule here. So if we take a look at the brush head design here, it reminds me of the smaller version of the Jumbo Bronzer from Sonia G. So if we just put them side by side, I think you guys will see what I mean. But the arch of this reminds me of the arch that we see on the ferrule of the Niji Pro. But the Niji Pro arch here is more pronounced, while the arch here is actually more subtle. So again, we have this very nice, flat and paddle-like design. If you put it to the side here, again, you can see the fullness of the belly of the brush here. You can see the strength of the brush head. Again, amazing snap back into position. And then it again tapers into a much more finer point here. So at least, this part will give us, enough ability to actually add detailing work, especially in the crease area that I'm so sure of. Again, this is flat, so it enables you to apply a very nice amount of color on the eyelid, especially if you want to apply one wash of color, or the first layer of color that you want to build into the eye. Amazing brush. This is so soft, so silky, feels so amazing on my fingertips. Now, in terms of the brush head shape here, it's very similar to, let's say, the Jumbo Worker. Look at that. But the Jumbo Worker, it's just like a different, of course, material, different density of bristles here, but you get the idea. And of course, we have the Jumbo Concealer here. So it's actually shorter in bristle length than this brush. And this brush actually kind of reminds me of one of the brushes that I got from Chikuhodo. They had a limited edition. Yeah, so here it is. So this is the eyeshadow brush from the Keramiki set that was released, I don't know, a few years ago. I forgot what year it was exactly released. Look at that. So they have the same, almost the same brush head design, wherein it's flat and it's paddle-like, but they have a difference in the way, the bristles bloom here at the top. This one is more tapered, while this one is more airy. Okay, what do I have anything similar here? Okay, so this is the Z5. So if we just put them to the side, we can see they're quite different. Even if we put them side by side this way, I know they look quite similar, wherein they're flat and almost paddle-like, but they have a very different design of the brush head here, and also fullness of the belly. Now this one is also made of gray squirrel. Both are very soft, both snap back into position quite nicely, but you have more density in the Z5 than in comparison to Sonia's Arched Worker brush. Okay, so those are the brushes that I have in my collection, which I could compare these brushes to. So if you could remember any, I'm sure I'm going to insert it somewhere, or maybe in Instagram or Insta stories, or maybe even in a pinned comment here on my profile. okay? Alright, so now it's time for us to put these brushes into the test. Let's see how well they will actually pick up, deliver, and buff out color into the eyelids. Now, I know for sure that it will work fantastically for us today, but let's just do this video and try to see how these brushes will introduce themselves to us today, okay? Now, I don't have any, some sort of eyeshadow look planned, but let's just go along and let's see where this eye look is going to take us. But for sure, I'm going to be using one of my most favorite eyeshadow palettes, and it's actually the Muse eyeshadow palette from Lisa Eldridge. And I'm going to start with this very nice warm tone peachy color here. And this is how much product the brush head of this arched worker actually picks up. And let me just apply it all over my eyelid. Now, I have to say that the brush head is actually very, very soft and very silky. If you have sensitive eyes, this would have been a very perfect brush for you to have. Okay, so let me just buff out the edges now and bring it closely into my brow bone area here. I'm just creating one layer of eyeshadow color so that everything is just going to work nicely for us. Okay, so this brush head actually delivered a very nice smooth pigmentation on the eyelid. Very even, no patchiness whatsoever. I like it. Let me also do that in this other eye. Now, I do have to say that this brush head is actually perfect to use, especially if you're someone who likes to have one and done eyeshadow looks, because the size of this fits perfectly into the eyelid, and it buffs out color nicely. And mind you, I'm using some matte eyeshadows for my initial color laydown. And it kind of works. It works fantastically. Now, since the Sunset Cranes Maki-e set doesn't have any blending brush, let's try to see if this arched worker will work as such for us. Because after all, if you take a look at the brush head here, I'm sure you've seen it in the close-up, it will kind of work, and it might just fit quite nicely here into my socket line area. And basing on how it's actually bundled and design of this is a little bit flat and almost paddle-like, this kind of might work to add some definition of color here on the socket line. So let's try that out, okay? So let me pick up this deeper tone here. Again, we have a very nice warm brown tone. And I picked up the color here at the very tips of the bristles. Let me just try to remove any excess, and let me just apply the color here into my socket line and buff everything out. Okay, so it did fit quite nicely. I like it. I'm very happy with that, and I'm actually able to maneuver it to help me to create some soft definition in that area, especially for eyes like mine. And if I just hold it at an angle, I'm able to create a lift by using upward motions in applying this color. And look at that, we can see some soft definition now here on my socket line, which is fantastic. I like that. Okay, so let me add a little bit more, and I'm just going to go a little bit beyond my socket line here, because we just really need to create a very lifted shape for my eyelid. And I'm so glad that this brush is helping me do that. It fits perfectly into my socket line too. It really buffs everything out. Again, it feels very comfortable. It doesn't feel even for the density of the brush head here, it feels very comfortable, because there's some brush heads whenever it's way too thick or it's bundled way too tightly, it feels uncomfortable when you apply pressure here into your eyeball. Okay, now that I'm doing this, I can actually feel that there is a very nice, strength in the belly of the brush head here. And this is the one that gives it its buffing ability. It holds its shape quite nicely, very nice and very erect. And it just gives it, the strength that we need to apply soft colors into our eyes. Okay, so now I'm going to add some intensity into the eye, and I'm going to be using the mini builder for that, and I'm going to be using this nice matte shade again. So I don't know if you can see it there. It picks up a very nice amount of color, and let me just add that ever so lightly here in the outer V portion. Again, we can see that we have a very nice soft application of color already, and let me try to apply that into my socket line so that we have some soft definition of color there. Look how soft that is. Very nice soft color application. Nice blending too, which is actually a surprise for me because after all, this is a mini builder brush, and I'm actually so grateful that this applies a very nice soft definition of color, and it helps you to blend colors nicely, especially here on the socket line. Oh, fantastic! So let me just continue to build the intensity here, and also the shape. Lovely. Let me get the arched worker here, and let me buff everything out. That kind of works. It works very well. I love that. Okay, let me add more intensity here. And what I love about the mini builder here is that because of the brush head design here, it's almost quite flat and tapered into a thin point here at the tips. If you just angle it differently, like for example, if you want to add more definition here on the outer V portion of the eye, if you just twist it a little bit, and then if you just land the pointiest part of the brush here, it actually enables you to create a very nice soft flick here on the outer portions of the eye, and then you can also use that to blend it into the socket line. Look at that. Soft and defined at the same time. Now when you're using this brush, you just have to put it in your mind that you can't really apply a very strong definition of color in one impact, because that's not what Skrill eyeshadow brushes will do for you. You'll always have this very nice soft application of color. Okay, and then let me just blend that into my socket line. Again, the brush head feels very comfortable, no pokey sensation, and the pressure is just right. Love it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some definition on my upper lash line, and I'm going to be using the mini smudger for this, and I'm going to be picking up this very nice sooty brown eyeshadow from NARS, and I believe this is in the color Bengali, and I'm just going to apply this on the upper lash line area, and I'm just using tapping motions for this. And as you guys can see, it's already adding a very nice soft definition of color there. Nice blending already. When I'm just re-tapping it into the lash line. And then let me just continue to add more as we near closer to the lash line. Fantastic. And of course, because this is a mini smudger, let's smudge that out. Again, it feels very soft, especially here on the most sensitive parts of the eye. And I love how soft, super soft. Look at that very nice soft definition here on my upper lash line. I love that. Now, truthfully, this is the kind of eyeshadow looks that I go for. I want them to look very soft and well blended. And look at that, it's very easy. You don't really need to apply a lot of pressure to exert effort and to apply pigment. I like tools like this that really guide me and help me in applying the type of eyeshadow look that I want on the eyes. Okay, and whatever is left here on the brush head, I'm just going to continue to blend and to add more intensity in areas in the eyes where I want to. And it's always here in the outer V portion or in the socket line area. So again, let's just blend everything because blending is the key. Alright, so everything's now softly blended and extended. I love it. So it's time for us to add more definition on the upper lash line, and I'm going to be using the soft pencil with us, and I'm going to be using this matte black eyeshadow. So take note, we have been using a lot of matte eyeshadow colors up to this point, okay? So I have some pigment now of this matte black eyeshadow on my brush tip here, and I'm just going to lightly tap it here as close to my lash line as possible, and I believe you guys can already see that intense pigmentation that this brush has applied on my lash line. And I do have to say though is that the brush heads are actually holding the pigment quite nicely because I am not getting any fallout. None at all. None. There's no, like, fall down. Again, amazing. And I am not using any eye base for us today, okay? But then again, also, if you guys have noticed, I am very careful in the way that I actually buff out the color. I don't use like very heavy buffing motions. I am actually very precise with my placement. So that's also one thing that can really help with your eyeshadow application. If you know where to apply the color, you will deal with less fallout. Okay, so let me just add more of this black here, as close to my lash line as possible. Fantastic, look at that. Nice soft definition of color, quite intense. I love it. Now again, the tips of this soft pencil brush is very soft. I'm actually very surprised on how much pigment it actually picks up and deliver. Like, I was not expecting this soft pencil to actually deliver this very nice, like, opaque application of color. Very nice and very soft, but it's also well defined. I love it. Look at that. You have a very nice soft application of color. So let me just remove any excess here now at the back of my hand, and let me just lightly buff out the edges here, just to continue to make this eye look like soft. Would you look at that? I love it. So that's how these Sunset Cranes Maki-e brushes from Sonia G applies matte eyeshadow colors all over the eyes. Okay, so I'm very happy with that. So now let's try to see and add some maybe shimmery colors. So let me pick up this very nice orangey tone eyeshadow color, and I'm using the Mini Builder. I hope I got the name right. And this is, wow, I'm quite surprised on how much pigment this brush picks up. And I'm just going to apply it here onto my mobile lid. Now, I love the size of this brush head here because it actually helps me to be very precise with my placement. Wow, and that works quite well, I have to say. Very nice color application, very even, and still no fallout whatsoever. So I'm going to get the arched worker again. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this and mix a little bit of this, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of some intensity here in the outer portions so that I have more definition and lift. Okay, fantastic. I like that. Okay, so I've just buffed the soft pencil on a microfiber towel, and I would like to pick up this nice, like sugary kind of a color, and this is what I'm going to use in applying the color here in the inner corner. Oh, would you look at that? I love the size of this brush head here because it just really helps you to be precise with your eyeshadow application. I love this brush head. Ah, fantastic. Just buff that out. Okay, that's quite cool. And now I'm having a little bit of an idea, so I'm just gonna remove any excess here on the microfiber towel again, and let me pick up some of the color let me pick up some of this color here with this brush. And I know for sure I can actually use this to create much more defined eyeshadow application on the eyes. Look at that. Helps with the blending. And I'm sure I can also use this brush to intensify my crease a little bit. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. I love that. Fantastic. Lovely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish the other eye. I'm going to come back and I'm also going to put some base and concealer on and some mascara so that we just look nice and even with this video, okay? Okay, so that's basically some foundation, some blush, and some powder down just to make everything like nice and even. And as a finishing touch for this eyeshadow look that I'm going for, I'm going to be using the soft pencil again, and I'm going to be picking up a mix of these two colors, and I'm just going to line my lower lash line with this just to add some soft definition in the outer corners, just like really help open up everything. Now if there's one particular brush that I am in love with the Sunset Cranes Maki-e set, is actually this soft pencil. And the main reason why is because for the past few months I have been looking for eyeshadow brushes that have smaller sizes in terms of width and length for their brush shape. It's because I have actually been wanting brushes that can help me to create more detailing in the eyes, because most of the eyeshadow brushes that you get, it's usually the regular sizes. It's always for lay down of eyeshadow colors, it's for blending, but you don't get a lot of these types of sizes of eyeshadow brushes. And I love that, especially if you take a look at my Hakuhodo haul that I got when I was in Japan last year. I think you'll understand where I'm actually coming from. So yeah, so aside from this, I love the soft smudger and the mini builder, because these can just really help you to create more definition in the eyes, and I love it super. Because sometimes even if you guys think the brush heads are very very small, but if you just blend properly, and if you just blend with patience, you are able to realize that you don't really need a big brush to actually blend out and buff out colors, but sometimes these smaller brushes can really do the job for you. And again, I love how detailed I can be with these brushes, and I love the soft nature that these brushes apply eyeshadow colors. And frankly, if you're someone like me who likes these types of eyeshadow applications, then this would have been a perfect brush set for you to have. Now this brush, even though if it's quite big and you don't understand the shape of it, but it's actually a gem, because it can really help you to buff out colors, to add blending, and also to lay down colors. It's a very nice all over worker brush, and the name is just very very apt. Okay, so yeah, so I believe that's it. So that's my vlog for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you guys how I am getting to know the Sonia G Sunset Cranes Maki-e set, and I just find it so unfortunate that it is actually no longer available in the market today, because this would have been fantastic if it would have been part of Sonia G's permanent collection, because it just fits nicely into a lot of her current brushes, and they have proved to be very helpful. And I just love the way that I'm able to apply eyeshadow colors nicely on the eyes with this, and especially if I'm working with someone who has sensitive eyes, this will be my go-to eyeshadow brushes. Okay, yeah, so that's it for me today. I'm gonna let you guys go now. So if you have more questions about all the makeup products that I used today, or the Sunset Cranes Maki-e set from Sonia G, please let me know down in the comments box, and let's have a conversation about it. Okay, alright, so I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!